Tommy Rooney, come on down, baby. How
Morning,
are you?
Jer. Morning, Johnny.
We look
I'm
like
good. How are you doing?
We look like we've just discovered you there, making last-minute changes.
Who, me?
Yeah.
No, not at all. No last-minute changes. Changes were made last night before midnight.
When was the last time Meath were not in the championship in April 23rd?
Probably the 18th.
Well, come on, Johnny. It's a new sort of system. Look, Meath fans have gotten used to being knocked out. Yeah, look, I don't know how long he's going to talk about Meath. Will we get through the rankings here?
Yeah, okay. Number 33.
No changes from 33 to 25.
Okay, so I'll just run through it. 33 London, 32 Waterford, 31 Carlow, 30 Wexford, 28 Tip, 29 Longford, 27 Leitrim, 26 New York, 25 Laois. Laois could be deducted some points for not showing up.
There's a typo there. Tip are behind Longford. So
sorry.
I don't know where that issue came from. It might have been me last night doing it late. And there's a dog with a bone and off the ball, Arthur O'D, who reckons New York should be lower, but they're the only team on that list that have won a championship game so far this year, so they're staying in 26th.
All right.
24th.
Wicklow,
yeah.
23.
We've got a couple of movements.
Yeah, you go through the movements there quickly.
Yeah, so Antrim and Limerick have both slid back one. Limerick are 22nd, Antrim are 23rd. Sligo moved up 2 to 21st. Sligo fans will probably complain that they aren't further. They bet New York. They're into a Connacht final. I reckon that Sligo could eventually turn themselves into a Division 2 team in a couple of years. Look at the success they're having in under 20 level and minors and schools.
On a point of information, 21st. Should Sligo not be grandfathered into 16 now that we know that they're in Sam Maguire?
No. They'll eventually. The rankings will eventually correct themselves as the summer goes on. We'll see how they get on in the round robin series. They'll eventually move down. There's only so many changes we can make there.
But they have to be in the top 16 officially because they're in the top 16 because of the way that the system is structured.
Sligo aren't getting moved 9 places in the power rankings. You're not going to make a mockery of these power rankings. That's not happening this year. Just because the provincial councils want to keep the provinces, it doesn't mean that the sanctity of the power rankings have to be destroyed.
I think we should reflect the madness of the provincial councils. The absolute buck madness.
We know that's going to happen. We know that.
Okay.
It's a Trojan horse. That's what they all are in round robin series. It's a Trojan horse. So the provinces will be dead at some stage. Fermanagh 20th, down 2 places. They were poor against Derry. Offaly are up 1 to 19th. Meath are back 2 to 18th. Their slide has continued. And Cavan are down 2 to 17th.
Stop. Fix this now.
Fix what?
Who just played in the championship?
It's not all about that. It's like if Offaly beat Louth at the weekend, they'll go up 2 places. Like they'll have beaten a team like Offaly, better team who were already 16th in the power rankings. Like Meath were 8th to 15th coming into this game.
Tommy,
it was absolutely ludicrous.
Tommy, you played tennis. You played tennis in the summer, in the winter. I understand that you're
in the winter in Cratloe. Yeah.
A demon tennis player, right?
Not at all.
Well, a long misspent youth. Instead of playing snooker, you played tennis. Fair enough, right? But isn't there a ladder in every tennis club in the country where you play somebody, you challenge them, and if you beat them on the ladder, you take their position on the ladder? Isn't there?
This isn't a ladder. This is the power rankings. It's not a ladder. If Meath and Offaly were to meet in the Tailteann Cup in 3 weeks' time, Offaly would probably beat them again, at the minute.
Hey!
If they met in 6 weeks' time, maybe Meath will have turned it around. But this is not what it's about. There are teams. But Jared, there are teams in the power rankings who are above others. It's not just about a win at the weekend.
Offaly are ahead of Meath in the official and unofficial and everybody's mind in the country because they just beat them and it wasn't really close. Offaly at the end got a little bit like, oh Jesus, we're about to beat Meath.
It was an alarming result, 100% for Meath football. But it was coming. Absolutely, it was coming. 100%.
Meath should be behind Offaly. These are now incorrect.
You can cry about that all you want. I have Meath in 18th place, and they deserve to be in 18th place.
You don't appreciate the sanctity of the betting markets. Meath were 8 to 15 favourites. If they played Offaly next weekend, they'd still be favourites.
I'm not sure they would anymore.
They wouldn't be 8 to 15.
If Meath and Offaly play again, and you're telling me Meath are favourites, I'm backing Offaly with you.
In a neutral venue, that's fine. We'll do that. Point and Hartigans.
Look, you can dine that horse if you want, but me being in 18th position is, I think, a proper reflection of where they're at and where they deserve to be, and it's a long way back from there. and I think it could get worse this year.
Are they arse with the Tailteann Cup?
It's not even about being arse, Johnny. It's just a mess at the minute. It's just a mess. Like, if Down lose at the weekend to Armagh and they're in the Tailteann Cup, Down are by far and away runaway favourites for the Tailteann Cup, like 100%. Meath could easily end up in a group with Antrim and Andy McEntee in the Tailteann Cup. And it's just the manner of the fact that Meath are just easy to beat at the minute. And I might get a bit of grief for this, but I genuinely feel sorry for a lot of the players there. And I think the management team maybe are feeling the heat a good bit. Maybe they're a little bit over their heads. Like, maybe they underestimated what was going to be like this year. The look of the league probably corrected itself. Meath should have been relegated. Like, going off the results and the performances, they should have been relegated to Division 3. They are a Tailteann Cup quality side at the minute. When you looked at the Leinster Championship at the weekend, Louth, and I would say Westmeath, looked like they were playing senior football. I don't think anyone else, like Kildare pulled away from Wicklow with a couple of minutes to go. I don't think anyone else looked like they were playing senior football apart from the Dubs. The Dubs are playing on another level altogether.
Yeah.
Like, the other teams are junior, intermediate, poor intermediate at best. In Leinster, it's a really sad indictment on where football is in the county, and the provincial councils and people in the counties themselves need to have a look themselves, because it's just, look, it won't take a lot for me to get it right, but I'm not sure it's going to happen this summer. Like, you look at Down were a laughingstock last year. The right man comes in their defeat in the Tailteann Cup to Cavan last year. Down had one Kilcoo player starting, Niall Kane in goals, Bobo Kane.
Wow.
At the weekend against Donegal, when they played with purpose and power, and Donegal actually didn't even play that bad, Down had 6 Kilcoo players starting and another 2 on the bench. It doesn't take, and I'm not saying that Meath have a Kilcoo, and that's probably one of the problems. Meath don't have a Kilcoo. Meath club football is a joke. It really is. It's a mess. The senior championship isn't strong. The intermediate championship is probably the most competitive, but I'm not sure how many of them would win a senior if they went up. And there's so many clubs playing junior football. They've started to do a couple of things right in Meath, but like, I don't know how much you want to talk about Meath here, lads. Like, you talked about them Monday, you talked about them Tuesday. We did it on the football pod on Monday even. Like, what is there to say? Meath are bad. Meath have been bad for a long time, but this is just really bad.
Yeah, this is the low point, and it's like a story county who has absolutely.
Sorry, let me rephrase that. Meath were bad for a long time, but I will stand by the fact that Andy McEntee got them to a good place in 2019-2020. Played more teams in Division 1 from August 2019 to the end of the league in 2020 than they had done in the entirety of the 2010s. More Division 1 teams. It was 10 games against Division 1 opposition.
Danny Mac 1 on the live comment says, Meath at 18, is this worth doing anymore, or should Rooney be replaced?
What's wrong with him? What does Danny Mac want?
He wants him to be down about 20th or 24th. Like, this is
well, it's a long summer. There's still.
Can I just make one point on this, right? I look forward to the draw being made, and I hope they get drawn in a group against Wicklow, and I would give Wicklow a 50-50 shot at beating Meath at the moment.
Jared, there isn't many teams that I would back this Meath team to beat at the minute. And do you know why? Confidence is utterly shot. There is 100% quality in that team. But at the minute, they're not set up to be hard to beat. They just aren't.
Okay. And
there's not a belief there. And they went out against Offaly and they kicked 2 points. They were 8-15 favourites against Offaly and they kicked 2 points. Meath is not a nice... If you're a Meath footballer at the minute, it's not a nice thing. There is a savage pressure outside and inside.
When you say they kicked 2 points, sorry...
You mean
in the first half?
On the first half. Right.
At all.
They kicked 2 points...
In the first half.
In the first half.
Yeah.
Right. Let's move on to the next page, and we'll try and rescue the...
Look, the Power Rankings have a couple of anomalies. Westmeath had an utter collapse at the weekend, and they're in 16th.
They've gone up.
They had to move. I had to move them up.
Why?
There's no other way. Because what am I supposed to do? There's no other way of doing it. I'm not putting Sligo up 9 places or down up 9 places. The Power Rankings would eventually correct themselves. There's very few changes from 14 down. And there has been very few changes over the last couple of weeks because I've been right. Like, it's just a mess beneath that.
Where are Cork? Are Cork that much better than Meath at the moment?
Well,
Cork and Meath would be a 0-all draw.
No, Cork are better than Meath at the minute, but Cork are a mess themselves. They have to have a look at themselves. They're too easy to beat too. But anyways, Westmeath are 16th. They're going to have a decent time in the All-Ireland Robin Series, but they'll be kicking themselves because they have not capitalised on winning last year.
They haven't at all.
Poorly. They were in a great position at the weekend in Navan. They should have been hammering Louth out the gate. Louth are a counter-attacking side who it does not suit them to to come from behind, and they did. It was an unbelievable win for Louth. So, and to be expected given how they played this year. And Louth looked awesome. Down or up 4 places, the highest mover, I think the joint highest mover this year, to 15th. I am going to say I called it. I'm sure you both listened to the football pod. Mid-January, I told the lads that Down would beat Donegal. Before all that mess happened in Donegal, they laughed at me. But
a bit of a golden cleric going on here, yeah.
Can I?
Down have,
I'm sorry. I think Donegal have sunk like a stone, though, and I find it very difficult to see them winning any games. Depending on
like a stone, they have, but they actually performed quite well, Jared, the weekend. They actually, given the state, they're in a similar position to Meath at the minute, in the sense that utter disarray, and they actually performed quite well.
I think they have a much better management team than Meath do at the moment. I would say that. I think Aidan O'Rourke's an excellent manager, but
is that the general synopsis then with Meath, that like Colin O'Rourke is over his head?
I think that he has not so far shown the ability to analyse where the game is and build a team capable of playing in the modern game. That's the evidence of the league campaign and now the championship campaign. And it's much more difficult being a manager than it is being a pundit.
Davy Burke has a 20-strong backroom team. I'm not au fait with every single member of Meath's backroom team, but when O'Rourke was appointed, that's actually small, right? That's small. Do you know what I mean? Like there's across the board with everything that's there. But he's got Mark McHugh around him and Jerry McGowan as a football coach, and McGowan has a lot of experience in county football from Sligo, Clare, and now Roscommon. McHugh is very highly regarded in terms of what he's doing, and obviously he's got the background in Donegal. O'Rourke, when he was appointed, spoke about who he was going to get. I don't know for sure, but I'm not convinced he got everyone he wanted to get. I think he got some of the people he wanted to get. Bray and Callaghan are two of Meath's most highly regarded coaches in the county at the minute. Garrigan and Ivers come across in the ladies setup. They're important to have. But when I look at the Meath setup from afar, and I look at what Mayo have done, what Galway have done, what Kildare have done, in a sense, there's just more of a brains trust. And you look at Porrick Joyce, Porrick Joyce is somebody who's won everything, he's done everything, and he's able to lean on people like Keane O'Neill and John Dively and everything. The manner in which Galway, Porrick Joyce left us waiting for 50 minutes outside the Galway dressing room in the Hyde the last day, because he wanted to wait until he had a shower, he'd talked to the lads, he'd cooled down, and then he was going to talk. Everything about them are a professional operation. By the way, Shane Walsh is still on the pitch 45 minutes after the game.
Autographs.
Right.
Signing autographs, and then he was into the dressing room, and I don't know how they squeezed their 40-man strong panel into that dressing room in the Hyde, because it's not a big dressing room, but by God they did. So right. We'll talk about going in a minute, but that is sort of what we're seeing now. And Down's backroom team, Laverty, Marty Clark, they're doing so well, and they just know what they're doing, and they're playing an under-20 final Wednesday, and then they're going into the Armagh game at the weekend. That is going to be a cracker. I don't know if Down will beat them this year. I'm not sure they have enough up top, but it's going to be a cracker. Kildare 14th, they're not moving. Nobody else is moving from 14th to 9th. Kildare, Cork, Louth, Clare, Donegal and Monaghan. I think Louth and Clare are the 12th and 11th best team in the country, and they have proven that so far.
Yeah, Clare Donegal will be an interesting game if they get drawn.
Definitely.
Depends on where it was. You'd give Clare a good shout in. Where do we know where the Clare Kerry game is going to be?
Park Urin, is it?
No, it's not going to be Park Urin. It's a TBC, and I made the case last night that this game should be played in Cusack Park in Ennis.
They wanted that, didn't they? Yeah.
Well, Clare wanted, but it would also be a good thing for Kerry looking on from the outside. It's no good for Kerry and
tell from the Examiner what I couldn't tell what Kerry wanted yesterday.
It's more than likely going to be the Gaelic ground. I tell you what, Jack O'Connor is going to want to win that game no matter what. So he doesn't care where it's played. I'm not sure Kerry
probably went 1,500 to the Gaelic grounds, will they?
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm not sure it's going to make a huge amount of difference either way. Like Clare and Cusack Park would definitely be more competitive. They'd be competitive anyway. But, Kerry going into that cauldron might put them under a bit more pressure. It was a cakewalk for them at the weekend. They didn't even have to switch it on at all. So, yeah, we'll see what happens.
Okay, let's keep going.
Okay, Armagh 8th, Roscommon 7th, Tyrone 6th, Derry 5th. I thought about making a couple of changes here, but I don't think it matters that much. They are where they're at. Mayo have slid back to 4th. I think they are still 4th, even though they're 3rd seed. I'm just looking at it in terms of what they can bring to the table and where I think they're going to come from coming into this. Derry, if they beat Monaghan, if they win the Ulster final, will be a 1st seed, and they will be facing one of Mayo, Tyrone, I can't even remember the seeds anymore. I'm confusing myself.
Sligo.
But I just think that's what they're at the minute. Sligo will be second.
It's interesting you have Galway ahead of Dublin, which I was just saying earlier. I don't get the betting as Dublin way shorter than Galway to win the All-Ireland, which I don't really see.
Well, the bookies don't always get it right, Johnny. And just from the evidence that I'm looking at, an argument can be made for these 1, 2, 3 anyway. I haven't seen anything to change my mind on this. I actually think Galway are the most improved side of any team I've seen. Last year they were, and this year they are again.
I spoke to Tommy at half time. It was like, this game is over. And you were like, no, it's not over yet. And then Roscommon were a point ahead 8 minutes later. But Galway, what I loved was, I know it was a fortuitous goal, but Galway just very, very nonchalantly just exerted control again.
Galway had the tools to wrestle back momentum. We've seen teams crumble. We saw Tyrone crumble, even though they played well against Monaghan, crumbled when the momentum switched. Clare managed to wrestle back momentum on Limerick. Westmeath failed to do it against Louth. Galway have such intelligence across that team. And what they've added, they haven't just brought in kids, right? They brought in a couple of rookies. Johnny McGrath is getting a good chance this year. Colin Sweeney is asserting himself as a young fella. But they brought back an all-star in Ian Burke. And you want to hear James O'Donoghue talking about Ian Burke on the Football Pod this week. He's just a freak of a footballer. James Horan wrote this week, he's nearly the only footballer in the country that you don't want to see kick the ball. Yeah. He's so good, and he just knits that team together so well. And it gives Galway so many options. Like, they can Finnerty's a shooter. I think. And he's a finisher. They can start Finnerty, they can bring him in, they can put Walsh to 11. They've got Peter Cook now. John Maher. Sorry, Jer.
And McDade's come back.
I'm getting
excited.
Isn't this the debate that we had last year about them, that actually they didn't have strength and depth? They thought they did, but they didn't. And what they've done over this winter, because the previous winter, a lot of players had left and they were like, oh, they're clearing house, they're setting new standards, blah, blah, blah. And then ultimately that proved to be a season too early and it wasn't the right thing to do. And since the start of last year, like, they've changed their backroom team, they've added experience and strength and depth. And, you know, Finnerty might not have been ready to be the main scoring forward if Comer was being marked out of it and Shane Walsh being marked out of it, but he's certainly a brilliant sub to have to come on for 25-30 minutes if you need it. And
I made the point this week.
I see the case. The one thing I would say is that I thought that Comer still has another gear to get to. If he dinks the finish in the first half as opposed to just
poor finish, he even put it over the bar, like, you know.
He got it over the bar.
He did eventually, but it was a poor finish. Yeah.
He needed to go on his right there. I don't know if a dink works over Conor Carroll, but I would say about Galway's depth, like, yes, Dublin have depth, and we know that, okay? Yes, Kerry have probably the best footballer in the country, and they have depth around them, and probably maybe the third best footballer in the country as well, maybe the fourth in Sean O'Shea. But what Galway have are the options to adapt and change as the year goes on. They've got decisions to make, and they're not bad decisions. They have a keeper who can go short, a keeper who can go long. Maybe that's a position they need to figure out a little bit more. They've got options in defence for man markers. They can free up Sean Kelly. If Sean Mulcairns gets back from injury and he gets a couple of games in, he's a fullback who can start in championship football and do a job in anywhere in the country. Coming back from injury, that'll free up Sean Kelly to do whatever they want him to do out the field, or man mark somebody else, or attack, or be a different format and attack. They've got options in the middle third with Maher, McDade, Conroy, Cook. They've got options up top. The difference between Burke and Finnerty, right? Finnerty is a finisher. He's not a receiver. If Finnerty starts, Comer and Walsh's games are different. If Burke starts, it completely changes how Comer and Walsh can play in that game.
Yeah, I agree. I have slight concern about Conroy's general athleticism for later on the championship. But just briefly, because the Examiner piece is brilliant from James Horn, I thought, notwithstanding the fact he made Galway favourites, they appeared clueless on their own kickouts. I thought that was interesting.
So I would say Galway have a lot to work on both kickouts. Joyce was losing the head. I asked him about it after the game. He was losing the head 20 minutes into the game.
After he had a shower.
Yeah, after he had a shower. It looked like, for anyone watching on to the pitch, that Galway had everything going pretty well, but they were completely malfunctioning on the Roscommon kick-out. Conor Carroll got every single kick-out away. He didn't even get them away to the right or the left. He was getting them down to centre and finding Roscommon people. Galway went along with Bernie Power's kick-outs. It was obviously a decision they made. I think they backed themselves to beat Roscommon in the air, but Roscommon proved, like against Mayo, that they're very, very good on the break and in the air. So Roscommon definitely dominated the kick-outs, but Galway were just so much better when they had control of the game in attack and defence. Yeah, they have things to work on. They have things to work on 100%.
Which is what you want.
But Dublin, Galway and Kerry have games now where they can work on the odd thing or make a couple of changes. And, like, Ger, I don't know how excited you were about the Dubs Are you very excited about the Dubs? For me, they've done this every bloody year for the last 12 years. It's Laois, they're Division 4, it's Leinster. They're putting the chest out. I need to see it in an All-Ireland round-robin group.
Defensively, it's going to be interesting.
I'll tell you what I care about. I care about the strength and depth, and I care about the fact that they've added 3 potential footballers of the year since last year's All-Ireland final. Like, Con coming back fully fit, that's a revolution for them. A lot of players who you assumed were guaranteed nailed on starters, like Kieran Kilkenny, got dropped, I think, for the league final, to be honest. But he came in at the weekend, and now they have a different player at 11, which means that they're not going to be using Kilkenny for transitions alone. His job might just be to be in the inside line causing trouble. I think if you're adding Jack McCaffrey back into that team, and if he's fit enough to be starting and getting game time now, by the time the All-Ireland quarter-final comes around, Jack McCaffrey's going to be Jack McCaffrey again, and then you've got Paul Mannion.
Dublin are in an unbelievable place.
Yeah,
I totally agree with you.
Yeah,
would you have them first?
I'd have them. Yeah. I'd have joined first. Them and Kerry.
And come on. Yeah, would you have Dublin first?
I'd have Dublin first. Yeah, I'd have Dublin first at the moment. Yeah. And then I'd have Kerry second, and then I'd still have a gap to Galway. Galway have to show it to me in Croke Park against a good team.
What are you talking about? We were amazing against Kerry last year. Amazing. Like, you have a dodgy free, and we could have gotten a
game. You're never going to win that game.
Has Johnny gone full circle on this?
No, I'm very confident Galway have a massive chance this year. And Jared, it's all about, like, history is written by the winners. Galway were amazing in that game last year. It was
they were a great performance. They were a one-man team.
Yeah, and sorry, Damien Comer didn't really play well at all.
Why not?
So we don't know that. So maybe the two of them will finally play well together at Croke Park.
The management team couldn't work away to get their best forward in the game.
And massive belief, a fella who will leave the media waiting. The man that is Porrick Joyce.
He learned that from James Horn, by the way. My last point on this: the power rankings isn't a predictions model; it's how it's seen at the minute.
I think it's good.
Power ranking will correct themselves eventually, says Dennis Ryan. Ergo, I'm wrong about these, but we'll get them right yet. Yeah, don't worry about it, Tommy. The football pod live and in glorious Technicolor in Killarney. The last few tickets are available. I don't know if they are. It might be sold out. Is it?
It could be sold out. It was very close to being sold out last night. We've got Mark O'Shea as our special guest. What a roll of honour. 5 All-Ireland titles, 3 All-Stars, 10 Munsters. I'm not sure they matter. 3 league titles. Footballer of the Year 2007. James O'Donoghue, when he broke in, had to mark O'Shea in training. Paddy Andrews come up against him plenty of times. We're going to have loads of great stories in the Great Southern Hotel Thursday, May the 4th. We also have a special interview coming out this week on the Football Pod feed. Episode 15 is out right now. David Clifford joins Paddy Andrews and James O'Donoghue for a chat. We got 25 minutes with Cliffy, as James calls him throughout. I think Paddy even threw in a Davy at one stage. So it's quite a familial chat. But Clifford gives us some really good stuff, and it's a really interesting chat. It's kind of a bit more about how he broke through and how he approaches big games. So that's going to be in the Football Pod feed later in the week.
All thriller, no filler, Tommy. Good stuff.
Tommy knows his football, obviously. Listen to Football Pod the odd time.